Hello, I'm Becky. Welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm going to make cheesy biscuits. They're a great favourite with friends and family alike. So for this we're going to use the food processor. You can do it by hand, but it's much quicker and it makes a better dough. And I've got 2 baking trays ready. I've lined them. You can use greaseproof paper or you can use this silicone non-stick reusable liner, which is very efficient. And the ingredients we're going to need are 100 grams to start with of strong cheddar that's grated. Don't be tempted to use the stuff you buy in the supermarket that's ready grated, because each little strand of cheese is coated with potato starch and that alters the dough. You won't get a nice soft dough, it just won't work. So you need to grate your own cheese. So that's 100 grams of strong cheddar, and that goes into the food processor. Now, to that we're going to add 50 grams of plain flour and just 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. This doesn't turn it into self-raising flour, and this won't work with self-raising flour. It just lightens the dough a little bit, so 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, and then just 25 grams of softened butter, and I do use unsalted butter because it affects the flavour if you have too much salt. You could use margarine for this as well. So 25 grams of margarine, and that's it. Now, this gets whizzed up in the food processor and it will make a dough, but you've got to be patient. So we've got the makings of a dough. Now the first thing to do is remove the blade, and it is incredibly sharp. Don't go anywhere near it with your fingers. If you need to get anything off it, use a spatula. And when you wash it up, don't let go of it in the sink. Otherwise you might risk cutting your fingers when you're searching for it in the washing up bowl. So I'm going to move it to one side and wash it later. Now we need to get our dough out of our food processor. Now if you wanted to, you could double that, because you can see it's not a huge amount. It's up to you, it depends how much you want to do, and it depends whether you've got help from any little people as well, because this is great fun for them. Now we're going to roll this on the work surface, so we need some flour. Just spread that around a bit and get the dough into a nice sort of lozenge shape, a little bit on the top. We're going to roll it until it's 3 millimeters thick. Turn it frequently and then you'll know it's not stuck. A little bit of flour on your rolling pin. 2 hands as it gets bigger. And just keep going. Keep an eye on it, because if it sticks to your rolling pin, you're going to have little holes that appear. A bit more flour. I'm going to use a bit from here as well. I wouldn't normally roll sideways, but I'm going to, just to even that out. Now that's 3 millimeters. Oh, look what's happened. Put that back. There we are. Join that back up, that'll be okay. Now, cutters. You can use all sorts of shapes, and this is a lovely time for a child to go through your collection of cutters and choose things like leaves. You can make them as big or as small as you like. But if you're going to have a mixture of big ones and small ones, this is why you need 2 baking sheets. Put the big ones on one tray and the small ones on another, because they'll cook at different times. So there are leaves, flowers, little people. You can do stars. You can just use the regular plain cutter and make circles. But the favourite in my family are feet, because we get cheesy feet. And I can show you the difference between these, which are 15 years old and have been squeezed slightly out of shape, and this is a newer set and that's a much better foot shape. So I'm going to use that little tiny one. I'm going to dip it in the flour and start to cut. And if it comes up with the cutter, put it straight onto the tray. So keep going. You can turn them over so that you get right feet and left feet, and then you get pairs of feet that you can play with. If it doesn't come up with the cutter, leave it there and you can pick it up with a palette knife by the time when you get to the end of all of this. So keep working around, cut them as close together as you can, and then when you've cut as many as possible, screw up the bits and roll it out again. Well, there's our full tray. I've got 52 little feet out of that batch, which really didn't look very much at all. So if you double it, beware, you are going to need a lot of trays. If you were going to make different sizes, put the bigger ones onto a separate tray because they will cook more slowly. And these trays are made by Mermaid and they don't warp in the oven, so you don't get that twisting and that clanging noise. They stay flat, so you don't get any movement of your little biscuits. Now they're going to go in the oven for about 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes. If they're bigger, they might take nearer to 12. The little ones are nearer to 10. You'll smell them and you will be tempted to look, and that's fine. Don't let them burn because there's a very short space of time between them being golden brown and rather overdone. They still taste lovely, but they just look a bit dark. So 10 minutes in the oven at number 6 on quite a high shelf. Well, they had 9 minutes and they're definitely done. Now they need to just cool a little bit on the tray, and then I'm going to just use a knife and get each one off and get them onto a cooling rack to cool down. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this and you have a go at making your own cheesy biscuits. Please remember to like, share and subscribe, and if you want the recipe, it'll be on the website www.becky-bakes.com. Bye for now.